transitioning over to Prime Video for their latest exclusive movie, which
Slight change of pace.
yeah, change of pace, but also like historical as well.
Historical.
The romantic drama based on the 2012 novel of the same name, My Policeman, set simultaneously in modern day and 1950s Brighton. The film follows a love triangle between Tom, Marion, and Patrick. Tom just happens to be a policeman in 1950s Britain. He falls in love with a schoolteacher, but is also in a secret same-sex relationship with the museum curator, Patrick, in spite of homosexuality being illegal at the time. What did you think of this one, sort of, before we dive in?
So, first up, I had no idea what this is about. I actually didn't even watch the trailer, but I'd heard about it, and I just like Harry Styles, so I just wanted to watch it. I had no idea what this is about, and I was rudely shocked. Let's just say that.
In terms of the storyline, you weren't expecting...
Yeah, nah, so I had no idea what it was about. And someone said to me, like, they heard it's very Brokeback Mountain, and I can support that argument.
Yeah, there's a couple of moments.
It's very Brokeback Mountain. But yeah, at the start, I was like, this is going to be a bit of a slow burn. I was not sure if I was going to be able to get through it. It was very boring at the start.
It does start very slow. Very
It's a
slow.
slow burn. It needed full commitment. And I was like, oh, like Harry Styles was the only thing getting me through this. And I was just very confused about what was happening with like current times, then flashing back to like the 50s, which is where Harry Styles features as young Tom.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest concern with this was it just felt like two different films, and the modern day version was just the acting just wasn't up to standard for me. It just seemed a bit tacky. Like,
oh, to be fair, the acting throughout isn't the best.
no, it's not. Like, Harry just carries this film.
I thought
he's brilliant.
I thought David Dawson as young Patrick was also really good, but yeah, everyone else was kind of just like, whatever.
Yeah, true, that was. But yeah, like the storyline was great. Like the plot and everything was brilliant, I thought. Yeah, I don't know. People saying this wasn't Harry Styles, that this was his worst film. I don't think it was his worst performance. You could make a case for him being his best performance. Like, he hats off to him for this one, and once you watch it, you'll know why. Like huge career risks were taken in this film, I think.
Oh yeah, 100%.
A full commitment to, and he nailed it. Did very well, and yeah, you can't say this is. You could say this is his worst film, yes, but definitely not his worst performance in a film.
Yeah. So yeah, like you were mentioning with the sort of two separate storylines, like in the modern day, we've got Tom and Marion still together. Turns out Patrick has had a severe stroke and needs like 24/7 care. So Marion gets him to come and live with them, which then stirs up all of this sort of buried trauma that these three have with each other. And we sort of go to find out what's causing this tension in modern day by going back to the 50s and finding out the whole story with this group of friends, I guess.
So it took me a long time to realise actually what was going on. Like, it wasn't clear for a long time in this film what was happening.
Yeah, like you kind of just think they're friends and there's a falling out.
Almost got 3/4 of the way through, and I'm like, God damn, I wish I knew this like an hour ago.
Mm-hmm.
I almost want to go back and watch it, and so I can appreciate what was happening at the start. Like, I got Tom and Patrick, current day Tom and Patrick, mixed right up. I thought for majority of the film, the guy in the wheelchair who had the stroke was actually the Harry Styles character, Tom.
Okay, yep.
And once I realised, I was like, you're kidding. Like, how the hell have I mixed this up? And it just wasn't clear.
Yep. It was...
yeah.
The jumping backwards and forwards is a bit weird, but like, I think once you get to the end, it all sort of makes sense, but how many people are going to make it through that first hour before they go, I'm done with this?
I think this the general mood right the way through is heart. It's like slow. It's like a heartbreaking film right the way through, and you got to be in a mood to watch it. And it's just building up to be really sad. You can tell.
Yep, like by the end,
constantly heartbreaking, but building up to be really sad.
By the end of it, I enjoyed like my experience with it, but I'm not like...
Yeah, I actually didn't hate it, man. But like the first 45 minutes, I was like, oh my God, this is so slow, and it's like a little bit heartbreaking. I'm not really in the mood for this, and give me more Harry Styles. Then once, it really started getting into its work, I was like, hey, this is actually not too bad. And when it finished, I was like, that was actually a pretty great film. Like, I'm obviously going to pick it apart for bits and pieces, like the tacky acting I didn't really like towards the end. Like that scene at the end with Marion and Patrick. Was it Patrick? Tom, when they're arguing and she leaves, I thought that was so cringe. I couldn't wait for that to be over.
Yeah, that was so weird. Like she just
and like the taxi's waiting out the front.
Yeah, that's weird.
And like her bag's packed somehow, and it was just really awkward. I was like, oh, this needs to be over. This isn't doing the film justice at all.
Yeah, like I enjoyed it, but I'm definitely not raving about it or eager to rewatch it.
No.
Emma Corrin as young Marion was decent. Emma's probably most notable for the most recent portrayal of Diana in The Crown. I think that's probably going to be a better sort of example of...
Yeah, I didn't know anyone else in this other than Harry.
What did you think of like the relationships between the three characters? I didn't really feel like any of them were all that real or believable. They're kind of just there.
You wouldn't. I don't know. Like, it is a love triangle by letter of the law, but there wasn't. It was all a bit fake, wasn't it?
Yeah, like.
There's no real connections. I think, if anything, you could make a case for Patrick, the museum curator, his love for Tom, Harry Styles. That was probably the only real true connection.
Yeah.
Like, Marion wasn't really even that connected to Tom, was she?
No, like I didn't feel like a romantic thing between Tom and Marion. It kind of just felt like...
No, not at all.
It was a partnership out of convenience for Tom.
Well, that's a lot of like relationships back then, wasn't it? You meet someone who you have somewhat of a connection with, and you say, "Let's just do this. We've found a suitable match, and let's just do it."
Yeah,
was not always a connection there. Like marriage, I don't think marriage back then is what it's like today. Like you sort of do it because you had to back then, and by principle. Where these days you find someone you love and you have actual connection with.
Especially when he mentions like people don't get promoted in the police force if they're single. I was like, so you're basically just marrying her for like professional...
And goes around porking other dudes on the side, which is a no-no by the coppers.
Yeah, but then like the relationship between Tom and Patrick was definitely just like lustful, like it wasn't a loving relationship, but then...
Yeah, when you think about it like that,
on the other side, there is love there. It was weird. It was
a very weird film.
And like you mentioned, like the no-no of the homosexuality and being illegal at the time, I don't think that was very well conveyed in the movie either. Like we have that...
It was sort of a bit brutal, wasn't it?
We have that one moment of like the police bashing the gay man in the alleyway. But it really just glosses over that real quick. Like, they give him a couple of kickings, but...
Yeah, but he goes to like a gay bar to pick up. Like, why don't the cops... If it's so bad, why don't the cops know about this gay bar that he just walks into?
Yeah. Yeah, like, it was just...
Yeah.
Like, I can see what the goal of it was like to highlight, like, just how crazy this whole situation was for everyone involved, but... Yeah, it just doesn't...
On a surface level...
fleshing it all out.
I just think it's got a very niche targeted audience. Like on a surface level, it was like a good film. It was pretty wholesome, a little bit heartbreaking, like I said, but on the other side, like it's pretty wild. And like, this isn't like a grandparents film. Like you'd think this would be like a grandparents target audience, like the way it was sort of, there's times it was set, costume design, like in some ways the plot. Yeah, and everything points towards Sunday Arvo, Saturday night SBS.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, your grandparents are going to turn this off as soon as it gets into its raunchy work.
And it gets
Like,
pretty full on.
I think the only people that could enjoy this film are like fans of Harry Styles. Like that's the only reason I watched it.
Yep.
Like I would have hated that movie if Harry Styles was in it. Like it would have gave me no incentive to watch it and like continue watching it.
Yeah, especially 30 minutes in and hardly anything's happened. It's just like, well,
like it's just like it wasn't like it was a good enjoyable film, but I enjoyed it because of Harry. But like I said, it's like it wasn't a great movie. Like there's so much wrong with it.
Yep. Yeah, and like even some of the like when the music was playing, it just didn't fit with what was being shown on the screen either. Like even when the police are bashing that guy, it's just like 1950s happy pop music in the background. Like what?
Isn't like Brighton just a strange part of the world? Like English beaches and English coast.
Shout
out to all our English listeners out there. It's just every movie. Like I'm sure it's like that all the time. Anyway, but it's just Brighton just seems so gloomy all the time, and just that I don't know. It's depicted in every single film the same, and just not appealing, is it?
I did like the like concrete walkway thing along the bottom of the cliffs on the ocean. I was like, that's cool, but everything else was a bit weird.
Yeah, I'd love to know more about the novel that this was set on.
Yep.
And that might give me a better understanding of why this film was made in the first place. And I'd love to know more about why Harry took this role. That's probably the bigger question out of this. Like he's read the script and what's he thought here.
Yeah, I don't know. Interesting.
And it was obviously filmed at the same time as like Don't Worry Darling. Like surely.
Very close, yeah.
Like they came out at the same time. So I thought that was a bit weird. And or why he's been doing like a world tour for the last 3 years.
I guess it was just a period where he was trying to do like really serious roles, where he was doing the Don't Worry Darling role and then trying to do this one, like be a real dramatic actor rather than just like he'd just come off Eternals as the big Marvel action superhero thing and was like, no, I'm going to now go and do these proper dramatic serious roles.
I don't think anyone can say a bad word about Harry Styles as an actor, and he's just a natural. I think he's just a born performer. He's such a good actor. I think no bias.
In terms of the book, I did read that it's based on the true relationship between E.M. Forster, the writer, and a married policeman whose name was Bob Buckingham. So I think the book might actually
that makes
really
complete sense if it's based on a true story.
Yeah, like I think it's very loosely based on a true story, but
I just think, I guess the film might it just picked up by wrong people then. Like it could have been done heaps better. They've used Harry Styles as leverage, I guess.
Yeah, 100%.
As their selling point.
I imagine they paid him a lot because they knew it would get eyes on this movie.
Yeah, because without him, this is a terrible film.
Yep.
If you know what I mean. Even though I said it's like a pretty good film, realistically, it belongs to SBS on a Sunday afternoon.
It's a total streaming movie. Like, this 100%. Would have tanked massively in the cinemas. A few people would have went and saw it, like the Harry Styles fans, and been like, "Nah, don't bother. Go and watch something."
You would have been disappointed if you left the house, found a park at the cinema,
spent $30 on some popcorn,
risk life and death to go see this. You would have been disappointed. Yep. But I didn't really care. I was doing nothing on a Sunday night. I was watching it on the lounge.
Yeah, I watched it.
Having a bit of a scroll. This is a bit of a phone scroller for me.
Yep. Yeah, I just sat there on the Sunday and just chilled out.
I'm not mad. I'm certainly not mad I've seen it. It was different from other movies I would normally watch. It was good to see Harry immerse himself into such a role. Couldn't love him anymore. Yeah, but wouldn't recommend it to anyone.
Nah.
Just do something else. Take your dog for a walk or something. I don't know.
Yeah, watch All Quiet on the Western Front first. If you need something to fall asleep to, chuck this one on.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad
as we
it's
mentioned,
free as well.
Yeah.
Not
As we
like
mentioned,
$4.99.
Harry Styles has done 4 movies. I thought we'd do a fun little ranking.
I can only name 3. Yeah.
Ranking the Harry Styles movies. So his debut was in Dunkirk. Then he did Eternals. And then this year he's been in Don't Worry Darling and My Policeman. Out of those 4, which one would you put at the top?
As far as films go, I speak highly of Don't Worry Darling as a movie. I'm looking forward to watching it again. I can't wait to watch it again. I think that's a movie I watched 2, 3, 4 times. It's just a really good psychological thriller. And he was brilliant in it, but I think he was outshone by Florence Pugh's performance.
100%. Yep.
Which is saying something because Harry was brilliant in it, but Florence was just unbelievable, as she always is. As far as movies go, I think Don't Worry Darling. As far as performances go, I honestly think My Policeman is his best performance.
Okay. Yeah, so I've got on my list.
And Dunkirk, he just didn't feature enough in Dunkirk, I don't think.
Yeah, as an overall movie, I've got Dunkirk at the top.
Yeah, right.
And then I had Don't Worry Darling, but that was pretty much purely on the back of Florence Pugh's incredible performance. Then I put My Policeman. And then I put Eternals. Like, Harry only has a cameo in that movie, but that movie is terrible. Like, we just kind of ripped into My Policeman quite a bit, and this one is like Eternals, way worse. Terrible movie. Right. The worst Marvel movie of all time.
Really?
Yeah, it's bad. Don't ever bother.
They're all bad if you ask me.
Fair. If you think the good ones are bad, and then you'd watch that, you'd be like, oh, Jesus. Even Harry
maybe
can't
I'll
save
like. Maybe this is the thing. Maybe I'll like it. Maybe I should watch it. Maybe I'll actually like it.
No, Harry can't even save that one.
Yeah, just touching on Dunkirk quickly. The reason I don't really give Dunkirk credit, I think just 1917 blew Dunkirk out of the water for some reason. But I need to go back and watch Dunkirk, I think.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in a long time.
I think 1917 did a similar story to Dunkirk, but better.
Because they were a similar vibe and came out at similar times. And yeah, I think 1917 just friggin' he's one for it. 1917 or Quiet on the Western Front.
Ooh, that's hard. They're both
exceptional. I reckon they've got to be on par. Like,
I think just 1917 purely because of like
the cinematography.
Yeah, the concept of the one-shot movie.
Yeah, that's what gets over the line for me. For
All
sure.
Quiet on the Western Front.
Taking nothing away from All Quiet on the Western Front. Oh, freaking unbelievable. Yeah.
So yeah, I think we're pretty unanimous on our...
one movie's coming.
Yeah. Pretty unanimous on our top recommendation this week. All Quiet on the Western Front, firing away.
Yeah, and don't waste your time with My Policeman.
Yeah, that's definitely if I've got nothing else to watch, a rainy, sad day, I'll chuck My Policeman on, but...
It's not even worthy of Saturday status. It's like a Sunday Arvo.
Sunday Arvo, I might fall asleep status.
You don't want to waste a valuable Saturday night in on the lounge putting a movie on to watch that.
Yeah, good. I think that sums it up pretty well. Alrighty, thank you everyone for listening to the commentary booth. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe on podcast services and on YouTube. You can get the show early also over on Patreon at patreon.com/JamieAppsMedia. You can follow me on social media at JamieAppsMedia and at Pario Magazine. And you can follow Blake on Twitter at Captain Crumbs with a Z. The Commentary Booth is a fan-funded production of Jamie Apps Media. You can support the podcast alongside our magazine, Pario Magazine, on Patreon at patreon.com/Jamie Apps Media. The following people supported at the publisher level or higher, and you cannot fathom how incredibly appreciative we are for their support.